Hello everybody, hope you're well and welcome to this month's live cookery demo for Community for Food. Hope you're all good and you're enjoying this wonderful weather we're having on a bank holiday weekend, quite surprising. So I hope you're enjoying it and you may well be out in it right now. So thank you anyone who's taking the time to tune in live and thank you everybody who's watching back later as well. So today we are going to be cooking pea risotto. It's a really simple and nutritious recipe that's using really quite basic store cupboard ingredients actually, but brought together really beautifully, and it's actually really easy to make. I think risotto gets a bit of a bad rep for being a sort of fussy thing to make, but I'm going to bunk all those myths today by making it in a really easy way with some really basic ingredients. So I hope you enjoy it and I hope it becomes one of your staples going forward. So, what I've got to say, just some admin sort of stuff first. For those of you who have tuned in for a few different cook-alongs, you'll know how things are going to go today. For those of you who are new, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how today will go. So I'm going to cook the recipe live today in this video. I'm going to go at a nice slow pace so you can cook along with me in your own kitchen if you like. You don't have to, you can watch it and then use the recipe card and do it in your own time, or you can watch it back later and cook along with me at another time. So whichever suits you, but I'm here to sort of guide you through it. If you've got any questions at all whilst you're cooking along, at whatever time that might be, you can message the number that's on the back of your recipe card and you'll get me. So that number is, in case you don't have the recipe card to hand, it's 077 233 41919. Sorry, I just have to do a bit of side-eye check number there. So you can message me on that number and it'll come through to me. And whilst we're live, I'll answer the question live on camera, so you will get the response. And it's really, please, no questions silly. If you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it as well. So you're doing everyone a favour by messaging in and asking the question. So please do ask any questions, even if that's just, can you slow down a bit, or can you repeat the quantity of that, or I don't have this ingredient, what could I use instead? Anything like that, anything at all, then just message. Likewise, if you're cooking along later and watching this on replay, it's not replay, but you know what I mean, you can still message that number and you'll come through to me directly and I'll just message you back. So if you've got any questions in terms of like, oh, I don't have this, or can I substitute this, or it's all gone wrong and it looks like this, what can I do to save it? You know, anything like that, then I will come back to you as soon as I can. So I'm here to support you, so please do just message and I will do what I can to give you any help or advice that I can. So I hope you enjoyed today. I think that's all the sort of bits and bobs I wanted to say. Let's get into it. So first off, I'm going to just run through the ingredients before we actually start cooking to give you a chance, if you haven't already, to look them out and get them all in one place so you can follow along whilst we're cooking. You will have got these delivered by Community for Food. So hopefully they're in a nice wee bag package with the recipe card attached to it and everything, so it'll be super easy for you. But if you need to dig them out, here goes. So what we'll need is 1 white onion. I would say err on the side of plentifulness with this. So if you've got a small onion, then throw in 2. I would probably even say you could do 2 of this size, but an onion. 4 cloves of garlic is what I've put in the recipe. Garlic, I think you either love it or hate it, so you can up the ante if you love it, or you can take it out completely if you don't like it. It's not essential, but it does give a beautiful flavour. We've then got 2 stock cubes. Stock cubes, I would recommend either veggie, chicken, or fish. Anything you've got really is absolutely fine. I'd probably lean away from a beef stock cube just because it will make it go funny sort of colour, but any other one would be absolutely fine. And then the kind of core ingredients is the peas. So 2 cans of peas if you're using cans, or about 300 grams of frozen peas, and either canned or frozen works absolutely fine. I think it will be canned ones you've got delivered from Community for Food, just because obviously cans are easier to get delivered. But if you're making it in the future and you have frozen peas all the time, then that works really well, and that actually tends to be what I use as frozen rather than canned. And then finally, the star of the show, the rice. And actually, this is just easy cook white rice. You don't need fancy risotto rice. And I think that's what puts a lot of people off cooking risotto sometimes. You've got to get the fancy rice and you've got to stir it all the time and all this sort of stuff. But hopefully my aim today is to debunk all those myths and show you how easy it can be to make risotto, and that actually it can be quite basic ingredients. So that is my plan. So 2 optional ingredients are lemon juice and mixed herbs. If you don't have them or they're not included in the pack, it doesn't matter at all. It just adds an extra zing, but it's not essential. And then the piece de resistance that we're going to top it with is either or. I think you've got sardines in your pack. So sardines that we're just going to, it's pre-cooked, so we're just going to pop them on top, or eggs, and we're just going to boil them. Both work beautifully, so it's like up to you. I'm going to show both today so that you kind of know how to do both, but it's absolutely up to you which you do. Oh, and so a couple of tablespoons of olive oil as well. And that's it in terms of the ingredients. Don't need anything, we don't need anything fancy in terms of equipment. So just a large pan, wooden spoon and a knife, and that's it essentially. Just 1 second, and then we'll get cooking. So if you get all that out, and then we'll just start cooking. All right, little mic adjustment there. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay, right, I'm just gonna pop all this to the side, and then we'll start by prepping our onion and garlic. Oh, careful your eggs don't go rolling away from you. That's never good. Right, so we're gonna start by prepping our onion, and we're just gonna dice it. So, as always, I feel like this is the start of, I think it probably has been the start of every single cook-along so far, is peel and chop your onion. So, chop the head off, and then we're just gonna peel it. Probably better off using it, I'll actually swap knives because this is a ridiculously large knife to peel an onion with. So just using the side of your knife, just peel the outer layers off the onion. I tend to go one in just because there's sometimes sort of bad bits or brown bits that aren't, to be honest, they taste fine, it's just the texture that's not so good. And then just peel that off. Can everyone hear me okay? Just got a wee call from Tiggy there, just checking in everything's okay. So can everyone hear? All right, yeah? Good stuff. And then I feel like I also show you this every time. For those of you who haven't watched any other ones, I'm just gonna give you a quick demo on how to dice the onion. So always put a vegetable on the flat side on the chopping board so it doesn't roll around when you're chopping it. So we've chopped off the top already, so now place it on that flat edge. And then chop it in half. And then again, put the biggest, flattest sides on the board. And then we're just gonna, taking the tip of our knife, run from nearly all the way back, but not quite chopping off the root, and then run that to the front of the onion, and just use your finger and your thumb to make a bit of a bridge so you can hold the onion in place whilst you do that, and then just chop it down in sort of thin, ½ centimetre slices, or however big you're comfortable doing, and then twist it around, and then keep your bridge there, and then swap to go the other way horizontally, so you get those nice little chunks of onion, like so. Okay. And then when you get to the root, it sometimes gets a bit fiddly because the sort of skin of the onion gets in between and it's a bit tricky. So just don't worry about being precious with it. Just chop it so it's nice and little. To be honest, I'm showing you how to chop the onion sort of the chef's way, if you like, there. If it doesn't work for you, it takes a bit of a while to practice, so just chop it in any way that you want that works for you, because it's not important. And it's also not important with a risotto that the onion's diced beautifully. It's going to end up, we're sauteing it, which means it's going to kind of cook down into nothing anyway, so you're not going to see the shape of it. You just don't want it to be in massive chunks, so it's really not that important. So I know that you guys won't have, just going back to the ingredients, I know you guys don't have lemons or lemon juice. As I said when I was going through the ingredients, it's really not essential, so don't worry at all about that. As I say, it's just an extra little bit of zing, so it's not going to make or break the dish by any stretch. Same with the mixed herbs. It really doesn't matter if you have them or not. It just adds a little bit of extra sort of flavour. Right, onions are diced. Now we're just going to go over to our pan. Now, this is slightly oversized, but we're not going to fill this pan. So if you don't have a pan this big, do not stress. Just a large-ish saucepan. Think about the size of your ingredients and make sure they sort of fit in there. But this is slightly oversized, so don't worry about that. Right, put a medium heat under your pan, and then we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of oil. Now you might have, I don't know if you've got olive oil or spray oil or sunflower oil or whatever. Any will do. Or butter. If you've got butter or margarine or something instead, that will work just as well. So a couple tablespoons. You want a decent amount just to make sure you've got enough oil for all that flavour to saute in. Saute, I'm never quite sure whether I say that right, to be honest. However you say it. And then into that, we're just going to put our nicely diced onion. There we go. And then you want it to sizzle a wee bit. So sorry, you've probably put this up to a medium-high heat for the sauteing, and then we're going to turn it down once we've sauteed off the onion and the garlic. So whilst the onion's sauteing there, we can prepare our garlic. Again, the start of most recipes for me, isn't it? So what we do is leave the skin on the clove, and then using the side of your knife, just put it on top of the garlic, and then using the back of your palm, just crush it like that. And then cut the top off, cut the bottom off, and the skin should just basically fall off like that, which means you don't have to spend too much time touching the garlic with your fingers because it's a wee bit stinky. There we go. Sometimes it's a bit fiddlier. Normally when I say, it's this easy, and then the skin doesn't want to come off. There we go. And then last one. Like I say, with the garlic, up to you in terms of how much you like garlic, how much you want to add. You don't have to add the full 4 cloves if you're not so much of a fan. But it does add a nice flavour, I think. Okay, and just get rid of the skins. And then simply just finely chop it. So just make sure your fingers are out of the way, and then just chop them into nice thin slices initially, and then just go back through to make it a little bit smaller. You don't want big, oh, bit of skin left there. You don't want big chunks of garlic in the risotto. You want it just to sort of, again, melt down into nothing. There we go. Okay, beautiful. And then if we come back over to the pan, you can see the onions are quite quickly sauteing off there, which is good. And then when they're nearly, all you basically want is them to go sort of soft and translucent. You don't want them to start browning like mine are here actually. So I'm just going to turn the heat down ever so slightly. And you just want them to sort of, as I say, soften and go kind of see-through. So at this point, when they're nearly done, I'm just going to add the chopped garlic. And then the garlic just needs 30 seconds, really. Cooks really quickly because you've cut it so small. Just give that a stir through. And then that's basically ready. So once you're at that point and your onions, garlic have sauteed off, they're soft, they're translucent, they smell amazing. Then just turn it down to a low heat. I'm cooking on quite a big ring here, so it's in a nice place so you guys can see it. So when I say a low heat, my heat isn't quite as low as I would recommend it to be, so just kind of bear that in mind. If you can get it a little bit lower so it's not sizzling like that, then that's kind of the ideal. So at this point, we then want to pop in the rice. just pop that in right now as it is. And then you want to pop in your stock cubes. You don't need to dissolve them or anything, just pop them in because they've got plenty time to dissolve in the cooking process. Rice, stock cubes, give them a wee stir through. And then 1 can or half, depending on whether you're using frozen or cans, of peas. So I'm just going to take the lid off there. I'm going to drain them just in a pan over here because I don't have the sink to hand, but will have a sink, so just drain them over the sink. And then I'm just going to add just the 1 can of peas for the time being. We're going to mash and do something slightly different with the other can. So 1 can or half if you're doing frozen. And then just give that a nice stir through. And then make sure you're now on a low heat, so it shouldn't be sizzling away too much. Now we want to add the water. So we've got 800 millilitres of water. So pop that in to the pan. Just being careful because I've put a litre in this, so I don't want to over egg it. That's 800 millilitres in there. And then just stir it through. So, you might be thinking, what is she doing? You can't add the water all at once. Because a lot of risotto recipes tell you to slowly add, slowly add, slowly add, slowly add. Add and stir, add and stir, add and stir. And it's really laborious and makes it a real faff to make because you basically have to stand at the cooker stirring continuously for 20 to 30 minutes. You can do that, however, it's really not necessary. And the trick basically to making risotto is just to cook it slowly. So you don't need to stir it continuously. You just want to make sure you cook it slowly enough that the rice sort of becomes quite sticky. The other thing is, do not wash your rice. I know how for some people they get used to washing rice before they cook it to take the starch off it. For a risotto, do not wash your rice before you add it because the starch helps create that sort of stickiness. So lo and behold, we've pretty much made it now. It's really not much more complicated than that. Like I said, it's a really simple to do recipes. So risottos do not have to be as complicated as a lot of people make them. So we're basically now just going to let this come to a simmer. We're not going to bring it to the boil and we're not going to simmer it vigorously or anything. We just want to slowly let it cook. So we'll keep an eye on it, and then once it starts simmering, we'll stir it, and then we'll just check on it every sort of 3 to 5 minutes. And then it should take probably about 10 to 15 minutes till you start to see it coming into a sort of risotto consistency. So really it's just about, keeping an eye. The temptation is, I suppose, when something's like, oh, it'll be ready in 10 to 15 minutes, is to walk away. And then for me, as soon as I walk away, something happens, and 20 minutes later, I'm like, what's burning? So don't walk away. Stay in the kitchen, but you can probably fit in doing some dishes or something whilst you're making it, which is the beauty of this recipe. So I'm not going to walk away and do any dishes. What we're going to do now is I'll show you that there's a couple of other steps just in terms of what we're going to do with that other half of the peas, and also prepping the eggs and the sardines for the topping, but really that's it. So if you've got any questions at all that you want to ask me about this recipe, any other recipe, or any sort of tips and tricks and hacks or anything for making kind of nutritious meals on the cheap or quickly or anything like that, then just drop me a message to the number on the back of your recipe card and I will answer in this sort of like cooking lull. But whilst you're furiously thinking and sending me messages, I'll show you what we'll do with the other can of peas and prep our eggs and sardines. So you can just add all of the peas in a oneer as we did there. You absolutely can. And then what you'll get with that is a sort of white risotto with just peas sprinkled throughout it, which is fine, delicious. What we're going to do is we're going to mash half of the peas. And what that will do is give the risotto overall a bit more of a greeny colour. I just like it, to be honest, because it makes it look like it's made with peas. And I love a sort of risotto that's made with like beetroot or something where it really shows the colour of the ingredients. But it doesn't really change the flavour profile all that much. I would say it maybe makes it slightly creamier because you've mashed the peas, so they've got a bit more creaminess to the risotto, but it's really not make or break whether you do it whole or mash half. So I'm just going to drain this next can of peas, and then I'm going to pop them in a wee bowl, and I'm just going to mash them with a fork. Now this is where I was saying if you have lemon juice, you can add a squeeze of lemon juice to the peas, just because it gives it a squeeze of lemon juice or a tablespoon of lemon juice. But I know you don't have it within your pack, so like I say, it's really not make or break. I've got this lemon that I sort of need to use up, so I'm just gonna use it. But it's not at all make or break. If you need a bit of moisture to help mash the peas, then you can just add a tablespoon of water, and that will do the trick too. So I'm just gonna, it's not a very juicy lemon, and it's got loads of seeds. Kind of wish I hadn't done that. Just gonna fish out the seeds. There we go. Oh God. Going further in. Come out. There we go. In the side of my eye, I can see that my risotto is starting to simmer, which is good. But once it starts to simmer like this, you want to turn it down. So it's gentle. You don't want it simmering vigorously. You want it just to simmer really gently. So the rice has got a time to absorb. You want the rice to absorb the water rather than the water to boil off, essentially. So you want to simmer really gently. So give it a wee stir and just reduce the heat slightly. Kind of tempted to change rings here because I'm on a really hot ring, which makes it hard to simmer it gently enough. So I'm going to go back to a smaller one here and see how that goes. So you just want to don't put a lid on it, keep the lid off, and then just let it simmer gently. That's perfect like that. So you don't want it vigorous, just a little bubble. And then we'll get back to prepping our peas. So just mash them. You could, if you've got a tatty masher, you could put them in a bigger bowl and mash them with a tatty masher, which might be more efficient, but we've got time on our side whilst our risotto simmers. So yeah, like I said at the beginning, risotto does have a bit of a reputation for being really hard to make. I don't know, maybe it was some fancy chef that started making lots of risotto in the 90s, but I feel like in the 90s, suddenly risotto was this like fancy dish that people laboured over for dinner parties and things, and it was all a bit like posh. But actually, hopefully, what I am showing you today proves that actually it's, because we're just using onion, garlic, peas, and rice. That's basically it, some stock cubes, not fancy ingredients, not even risotto rice, it's just easy cook rice. And you're basically chucking it all in the pan. So it is important to saute off the onion and the garlic at the beginning, so you get that nice flavour all throughout the rice. But other than that, bung it all in and simmer it for 10 to 15 minutes, and there you have it. So these tinned peas are actually really a dream to mash compared to the frozen ones. So you can get them mashed down really nice, then they'll help make the risotto nice and creamy. So there we go. Is anyone who's cooking along, let me know how you're getting on and if you need me to speed up or slow down. The other thing to note is if you are cooking along with me, whether that's live or later, don't be tempted to go at my speed, if you know what I mean, in terms of be guided by the risotto and by how fast it's boiling, it's simmering. Because the important thing, like I say, is to cook it slow. So don't try to keep up with me if you feel like your risotto isn't cooking as fast. Just let it cook slowly. And if that means you're a wee bit behind, because I am cooking it on quite a hot ring, then so be it. Do not worry about that. Let the risotto guide you. Right, So that's it. Our peas are sufficiently mashed. It doesn't have to be super smooth. That is absolutely fine. Just going to set them to one side. And then the toppings. So I think you guys all have sardines for the topping of the risotto. But I wanted to show you how to do it with eggs as well, because I know in the recipe card as today that you can either do it with eggs or sardines. So I'm going to show you both. You can actually do it with anything. It doesn't have to be eggs or sardines. It could be bacon, chicken, ham. It could be absolutely anything. So chickpeas, vegetables, it could be anything. So don't feel restricted to eggs or sardines. You can literally top this risotto with anything. It's super versatile. You can also use it as like a side dish. So if you're having chicken or sausages or whatever as the sort of main part of your dish, if you've got leftovers of this, then you can just pop it as a little side, and it's great, really good. So for the eggs, I am going to suggest boiling the eggs. So just get a small saucepan and put that on a high heat. This isn't going to want to start now. Come on, Mr. Ring, there we go. Small saucepan on a high heat, and then just pop your eggs in there. So I'm going to do half and half. I'm going to do 2 eggs and 1 can of sardines. And I'm just going to boil the eggs. I know it's probably more, I don't know what the word is, more expected to do a poached egg rather than a boiled egg on top of risotto. But poaching eggs can be a bit of a pain, and also once you've poached an egg, you've kind of got to eat it there and then, otherwise it doesn't really last very long or keep very well, that's what I'm trying to say. Whereas boiled eggs, you can boil them, peel them, or not peel them, put them in the fridge, and then they're absolutely brilliant for so many things. So if you were doing this dish and then you wanted to boil a dozen eggs and then use 2 for the risotto and then have the other 4 boiled and peeled and put in the fridge, and then you can give them, have them for breakfast, either just as a boiled egg on the run, if you're sending the kids off to school and want to give them something a bit more nutritious than the sort of sugary cereal that's so often used for breakfast. Like an egg on the run can be a really good way to get a really healthy start to the day, and actually it's full of protein, so it's good for you, and will keep you full up for longer. So eggs are brilliant for a breakfast, but also for anything else, you know, like on toast for lunch or whatever. So I always say when you're boiling an egg, just stick another couple in, and then you've got them in the fridge, and it's really easy and helpful thing to have for any meals that are happening. So boil rather than poach, my personal preference, but you can absolutely poach them, fry them, or whatever else as well, and then you can just use that to top your risotto. The other suggestion I've included in the recipe is sardines, which is much simpler. Basically open the can. I've got sardines and tomato sauce here because it's all I could find in the supermarket today, but I imagine you've probably got them in sunflower oil or olive oil or something like that, which is probably better for this recipe, to be honest, but either is absolutely fine. And what I was saying about these tinned sardines, in fact, tinned fish in general, it is brilliant. It's so good. I actually stopped eating fish for a while, so I forgot all about it. But tinned fish is so versatile and easy and nutritious. It's so good. So have a wee look. If you don't normally buy tinned fish, then have a look, because this can of sardines costs, I actually think it's less than 50p. And it's brilliant. So you can use this, 1 can of sardines will easily do 2 toppings risottos. It will probably stretch to 4 actually. I'd probably say 2 cans for 4, but you could actually stretch this for the whole 4 portions, I'm sure. It's great. Use it to top a risotto, or on top of a salad, or couscous, or on toast. Or just as it is. It's so easy and nutritious. Big believer in tinned fish. So sardines, mackerel, tuna, all of them are great. So all you have to do, sardines is a bit of a funky one because you actually have to take you don't have to, some people eat it, but I personally prefer taking it out. You've kind of got to bone them. I think you can buy them boneless as well, but I tend to just buy the ones with the bones. And then basically just chop it in half lengthways, I suppose, and just really gently, and then you'll see the entire kind of fishy spine there. So just gently take that out with a fork or knife like that, and then put that to one side, and that's it. So it's really simple. Should have got a wee saucer to put them on, but just do that. I'm actually just going to put them in a wee plate here. Oh, runaway sardine. And then just pop it to the side, and then just do that for them all. So you don't have to do it once you don't lose any bones into your risotto. Just slice it down. I tend to do it around the sort of thinner edge of the sardine. It's a bit easier that way. Some of them tend to be a bit fiddlier than others, but generally speaking, it's not too bad. And if they do break apart, it's not the end of the world. And then just gently sort of dissect it like that, and then pull out the bone like that. Don't worry about all the little sort of fin bits. You don't really get any texture from them, so it's not the end of the world if they stay in at all. Just try and get the big backbone. So yeah, cutting his belly. If you're squeamish, sorry, this probably isn't the nicest. That one's a bit more fiddly, but yeah, let's dissect him and then get that wee backbone out. Okay, and then final one. Now I can hear just in the background here, my eggs are vigorously boiling away, so I'm just going to turn them down. And then once they're simmering or boiling like that, turn them down to a simmer, and then you want to give it just 5 minutes, and then that'll be sort of hard boiled with a slightly soft center. If you want it properly hard boiled, then I'd go for 7 to 8 minutes, but I quite like a wee softness in the yolks, so I'm just going to put it on for 5 minutes. I'm actually going to put a timer, otherwise I will overshoot that. And I'm also just going to put it onto the back ring, because you don't need to see it, and it's boiling away a wee bit too vigorously there. So you see, you want it more like that, where it's just simmering. Simmering. Turn it down a wee bit more. Simmer like that for 5 minutes, or 8 if you want it hard boiled. Okay, and then last little fella. Give him a little dissection. There we go. Beautiful. So I'm just going to put these back in here, and then we can serve them, because I'm going to serve the risotto in that plate. So put these back in here, and then we can serve them on top of the risotto once it's done. They will break apart a bit like that, and it's really okay. Well, that's part of they're not going to, sardines never stay whole, unfortunately. There we go. So we've got our sardines ready. We've got our peas ready to go into the risotto. And we're boiling our eggs. So we're pretty much there. Risotto a go-go. So yeah, the other thing I was going to say about today's recipe, similar to canned, let's just check back on the risotto actually quickly. So if you come back and have a look on the risotto here, don't forget it. Give it a wee stir. You see already that is absorbing the water really well. So, and it's coming together, and already you're sort of seeing that consistency. It's not just like boiled rice, but you've got that sort of stickiness from the starch of the rice, the stock cube, and it's all coming together rather nice. So give it a wee taste to see how well your rice is coming on. And actually, that rice is nearly cooked already. So what I'm going to do at this point, when you're at a point where you sort of look a little bit like this and it's become quite sticky, your rice is nearly cooked, then you can add your peas. So just pop your mashed peas in, and then that's going to give it more of a green pea colour. So give that a good stir. And then you see it sort of transforms it from just looking like white rice and peas to being a bit more of a risotto. At this point, if you have mixed herbs that you're going to add, you can pop them in too. That was just 2 teaspoons. 2 teaspoons of dried parsley I've used there actually, but it could be any mixed herb. Just gives it a nice little extra flavour and greenness to it. And you can see that's come together really rather lovely actually. So, hopefully yours is looking equally delish. I'm actually going to turn that right down now. If it's come together, if it's too sticky and you feel like actually my rice grains aren't quite cooked but it's boiled off all the water, and that's kind of the position I'm in. I've almost had it boiling too vigorously. So all the water's boiled off but the rice isn't quite cooked. It's very nearly, but not quite. You can add just a little splash of water extra. I'm just going to add a splash, not too much, but just a splash so you can sort of stir it through and it'll loosen it up. Just enough so it can cook that rice just another smidge. And we're literally talking not even 5 minutes, I don't think. Okay. Now, we're pretty much good to go. All we're going to do now is, I think these eggs, just 1 more minute I think, and then we're pretty much done. So it'll be ready about the same time as the risotto. Let's just give it a wee. One more minute and then I think we're good to go. What was I chatting about before I got distracted by the actual matter in hand? Yes, canned veggies, canned fruit and veggies actually. We sort of get stuck in this chat about fresh fruit and veg being the best, which in a lot of ways it probably is, but actually canned and frozen fruit and veg can be cheaper. It can be more convenient in that if it's canned or frozen, you've kind of always got it, so you don't have that thinking of, oh, I don't actually have any veg, so I'm just not going to bother including it in the meal, or you know, whatever it may be. It's easier to store canned fruit and veg and or frozen fruit and veg if you've got a freezer. And it can also be cheaper and it can just be much more convenient. So never think that it's not as good, because actually it's just as nutritious. So if having canned, frozen fruit and veg allows you to get more fruit and veg into your meals, then absolutely use canned or frozen, because they are brilliant. They're a brilliant way of storing veg, and actually they're always frozen and canned at the peak of their ripeness, if you like. So and that kind of locks in the nutrients at that sort of point of preservation. So it's really, really good to a way of eating fruit and veg. So don't shy away from canned fruit and veggies. They can be really rather delicious and nutritious. Right, I think we're at serving point, you know. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you with the sardines one first, since they're ready. I'm going to bring my plate back over. Just give this a wee stir. Look, it's got that lovely greenness to it now. Just going to give it a final taste. Yep, that rice is cooked perfectly. You don't want it super stodgy, but you don't want it to have a bite in the middle, and that's just perfect. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to bring that over and serve it up. So I would say serve generously. This is enough for 4, but it's a plentiful supply for 4. Quantity. Give good 2 spoons like that. Remember, it's rice, so it's actually really quite filling. So, you know, you're not going to need an awful lot more than that, but if you've got hungry brood, then please do. And then top it off with a wee sardine or 2. And there we have it. A beautiful risotto with sardines. Delicious. This is sardines and tomato sauce, so you can put some more of the tomato juice on top if you like, or if it's served in oil, then you can do that as well. I might just put a wee bit of the sardine, tomato stuff on there, give it a little bit of extra juice. And there we have it. The other option is an egg. So now my timer's gone off. So what I'm going to do now is just peel one of the eggs and show you what it looks like with an egg on top. I'm just going to try and not burn myself by just putting this egg in water to cool it down before I peel it. Pop that one to one side whilst I peel this egg. And then I'll serve up another portion with a boiled egg so you can see what that looks like. I mean, you can see what it looks like from the photo anyway, but I just want to give you both options. Peel this in here. And then, like I say, boiled eggs are brilliant. They're so good. We're going to have, there's only 2 of us here, so one will have the one with the egg, one will have the one with the sardines, and then I'm just going to have a boiled egg in the fridge, which will make breakfast tomorrow super easy. I'm actually running the Edinburgh Half Marathon tomorrow, so that egg will be a brilliant start to fuel me round the 13 miles. There we go. Right, so there's your egg there, and then I'm just going to serve up another portion. Again, a nice generous couple of spoonfuls. A little bit extra for luck there. And then pop the egg on the top. Let's cut it open so you can see it's cooked inside. Beautiful. Slightly soft in the middle there, just how I like it. There we have it. Sardines or egg on a beautiful creamy pea risotto. I hope you enjoy it, guys, and I really do hope this risotto becomes a sort of staple in your cooking, because it's super cheap to make, easy to make, and so versatile. So, hope you have a good dinner, and enjoy it. And if you've got any questions when you're watching back, please don't hesitate to message me on that number, because I'm happy to help with any questions. All right, take care and enjoy your evening. See you soon.